Hi scholars! So if you noticed, I am wearing the same hat as my last video. I am a little cold. I am having to shoot my videos outside. So if you're curious, I'm wearing this because it's a little chilly out here. I hope it's not too distracting. We are going to stay in Asia, like I said in our last video. Now, we in Asia, I left Cambodia on here. So this is where we left off in Cambodia, and we are now going to go towards India. So, as you can tell, it is pretty close, but the cultural difference is pretty vast. So now we are going to talk about an Indian design known as Diwali Alpana. Now, these designs are passed down from generation to generation. This specific design for Diwali is for something called the Festival of Lights that happens every Hindu New Year in India. Now, how you would normally do it is, say you have a stencil of something, you cut it out and then you would decorate it with sand or paint. Now, a lot of people use it to paint, well, now in current India, they use it to paint and decorate their homes every New Year's for the Hindu New Year. So Diwali Alpana is the design that is passed down from generation to generation. So I like how unique it is, that it is something that is kept alive in both art form and tradition together. I have here a little stencil. I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to cut it out. I already have some pre-made designs that I'm going to show you guys. I have 3 pre-made designs, one with no color whatsoever. So if you remember last time, I asked you guys to get something to write with, handy dandy newspaper, construction paper if you have it. Regular paper works very nicely. I'm going to show you guys how we're going to fold this. This design is just one that I made up. It doesn't have to be specifically this design, but if you guys like the way the design turns out, I showed you where to cut. Now, first, we are going to start off with this. Now, ignore this little corner part here. I messed up on my design. Oops. So I just have a regular computer paper right here. I'm going to fold it hamburger style, not hot dog style. I was thinking not hot dog style in my head, not hot dog style, hamburger style, like this. This is hot dog. Okay, it's very long, thin fold. We are doing hamburger style, so folding it in half. Now that I folded it in half, I'm going to fold it one more time this way. So a little baby hamburger style. So I started off with my regular hamburger fold and folded it one more time. So I have now folded it twice. So how many sections do you think I have inside? If we're doing our twos, counting by twos, we have 1. So in half is 2. One more time, 4. So counting by 2, 2, 4, 6, 8. I'm folding it twice, so I have 4 sections on the inside. So let's go ahead and count. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 folded sections. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. Where I have my part folded right here along this line, there's nothing open. This is called my folded edge. So on my folded edge is where I'm going to cut this center piece out. Now, since it's folded over here and I have 2 folded edges over here, this is going to be the center of my paper. So if I were to open it up one more time, when I cut this out, this design is going to cut the center of my paper. So just so you know, when you're cutting and you're making these designs, how it's going to look, imagine in your head what it's going to look like by using your folded edges. These are all my open edges here, where I have the edges of my paper all folded up. There's no folded edge here. They're all open. Same on this side, they're all open. I have no folded edges showing. So these are going to be on the edges of my paper. So when I unfold it again and I cut on these open edges, it's going to be on the outside edge of my paper. But once again, this is my solid folded side. This is my second folded side where I have two folded edges here. And I'm going to follow my dotted lines and go ahead and start cutting. So you guys can go ahead and follow along with me if you'd like. I have here scissors, and I'm just going to follow along my dotted line. Again, I am cutting slowly. So traditionally, you would take this stencil and you would open it up and you could put different colored sands on the bottom, on top of it, and wherever the paper laid, the sand wouldn't drop there. So you would be drawing or coloring in with sand only on the open spaces here. And then when you would lift it up, you would be left with a cool design. So we're going to talk a little bit about positive and negative space. So imagine my white paper as positive space and everything that I'm cutting out is now negative space. So this was originally positive space, negative space. Now I'm going to open it up, see what it looks like. So if you guys remember our snowflake designs, this is similar. So this is my cool Diwali Alpana design. Now on the table. So what I'm going to show you guys is with one that I already made. So instead of using regular paper, since it's so precious, I'm going to use the newspaper as my stencil. So think about it, if it's easier for you to kind of associate it, think about these as snowflakes. So I'm making snowflakes out of my newspaper. And I'm going to place it on top of a regular piece of paper. So when I have I'm just going to use my Sharpie because it's easier. When I place my hand down on the paper, I'm going to go over it with marker. Now I would be careful during this step because even though I'm going over the paper, I'm pushing this newspaper close enough to my regular paper that it's not going to pick up and I accidentally rip it. If you've noticed too, I've actually taped down the edges here so that it's not floating everywhere and so I don't accidentally move it and it's now in a different place when I'm trying to color it in. So I have this here. I'm going to, since I'm only using black, make cool little designs in this one. Same here. And I'm just going to go around making cool designs. I'm going to pause the video for a little bit, finish this up. You guys feel free to do the same if you want to cut out a cool design, make a snowflake newspaper, and go ahead and tape it on the paper while I'm doing this. You can pause the video yourself. I'm going to just pause. When I play again, this should be complete. Okay, hey guys, so I just wanted to unpause the video for my very last one right here. I know I've been going back and forth like this. I forgot to also mention that when you're coloring these in, you want to go very lightly because if I'm pressing down with my marker, I can accidentally snag the newspaper and it'll rip through my design, and that's not what I want. I want to be very careful. Now, you guys, this might be a little hard for you to see, but as I'm holding down this triangle design in my snowflake, I see that it's popping up a little bit because of the crease in my paper. So what I can do, one of the things I can do is Ms. Pena's special coloring technique is I draw once and I lift up. So really, I'm only drawing in one direction. So my marker is only going this way. I'm not going back and forth. I'm drawing and lifting up, drawing, lifting up, like I'm making a circle with my marker. I'm really only drawing one direction. So I'm going to quickly do that. When I get closer to this edge, I notice I'm lifting it up. So I'm just going to carefully, instead of going this direction, I'm going to do the opposite direction when I'm doing the top of my triangle to make sure that it's all nice and colored. You can spend a long time making a really cool snowflake design and then taping it down carefully, and it all get ruined because when you're drawing, you're being too rough and you rip through your newspaper. So you want to make sure that you're taking care of your snowflake until you've colored everything in. Then we get to do the fun part. I like to call this the big reveal. So I have here the little snowflake that I've colored in the design. If you guys like to as well, I did this with a couple of my stencils where I took my marker and I went along the edge of the design so that I could it would pop out more. So I'll only do half. Hopefully you guys do a better job than I'm doing right now because I'm trying to show you here by lifting it up. But you can do a careful job where you just go carefully around each one. For time's sake, I'm just going to quickly scribble. If you notice, my thumb is always holding down the newspaper close to where I'm drawing so I don't accidentally color on an edge. Ooh, something else. Look, here I am between my paper and the table in a permanent marker that could potentially ruin furniture forever. So I've been using this little sheet of paper. As you can see, it's got a lot of edge marks on it. I'm going to just put that underneath my paper and the table so that I can draw to the edge. And I'm drawing on this paper rather than the table. So we want to make sure, I'm sure that all your parents and guardians really love their furniture. So let's try not to ruin it with our fun art projects. I'm only going to do one half so you guys can see the difference. You guys can decide whether or not you want to outline your edge. It's totally up to you. I'm going to move this out of the way. And now it is time for the big reveal where I take off my stencil. See? Now for me, I taped it on, so I'm just going to untape it. And in this instance, here you go. So this is what it looks like. The design is left after I took my stencil off. It looks pretty cool, right? So in this instance, you can decide I like it without the edge or I like it with the edge. I actually like this one without the edge more. I have a ton of these that I did, and I'm going to do the big reveal for all of them here with you guys right now. So I'm once again going to clean up this area, all my little scraps and stuff that I just cut out. This is another black and white one. Just so you know, that was black and white, and it looked pretty cool for just a black and white design. So since I actually started with that black and white one, I'm going to end with the one that I already made. So I made another black and white one. This one I traced around all the edges, and I added little circles at the center to make it more interesting. For this one, I'm going to go ahead and reveal my colored one. So what I did was I folded up the newspaper, I cut out my snowflake design, and I taped it down. So I only taped down the edges here, so the top and the bottom. So when I was working, I was able to take a quick little preview. What is this gonna look like? And but it still stayed in place. So I'm going to big reveal, untape this one. This one I also colored around the edges. I used construction paper and colored markers. These actually look pretty cool. If you want to hold on to them, I don't know, they're really just stencils. Stencils you can reuse on another piece of paper, which is really nice. So if you like the way your stencil looked and you want to try it different colors, take it off very carefully so it doesn't rip. And you reuse this, tape it down on another piece of paper, use different colors. If you liked the black and white design, you can do it using the black and white design. I mean, stencils can be reusable. which is why it's really, really important that when you're coloring them in, you do it in a way that it's not going to rip the stencil. So doing the Miss Pena's special technique of one-way marker coloring. We're not wasting ink on our markers, and we're being extra careful with our stencils. So this is what it ended up looking like. It's really cool. I'm really happy with the way this turned out. I was very conscious of, which means I was paying attention. It was a decision I made. This isn't a happy accident. I thought about, that was deliberate with my color choices of having these across from each other be different colors. These, I believe, were all the same color, and it's a little hard to tell. This was a good opportunity to use marker pattern. I could have gone orange, blue, purple, orange, blue, purple, orange, blue, purple all the way around, but I decided not to. I just kind of did random colors throughout. These sides I left just purely orange, and I did different colors down here. Now I got really cool blending by, if you look really carefully, let me try to find a really good example of where I did this. I just did one or two strokes into the orange. So 1-2 strokes into the orange, and I went all the way around. Now for this, I did the special one-way technique all the way around. So basically I was making circles with my marker all the way around the edge to get this cool technique. Now if you overlap with markers, it gets really dark, and it's easy to rip through the paper. If you're just coloring the same spot over and over again, it's kind of a waste of ink not to spread it around, and if it gets too wet with all the marker, it can rip through the construction paper, even though it's thicker than normal paper. So that's one. This is using just tape. So if you decide that you don't have any newspaper, you can use tape instead. So with the tape, I will tell you, there's special artisan tape that a lot of artists use when taping off a canvas, because you can get really cool effects by taping it down first and then painting over it. So I have here tape that I used. Here, let me go down so you guys can see a little better. The tape that I used, as you can tell, some of it looks a little fuzzy. It's because I took the tape fresh off the wheel. So say I got this tape. This is a really important step if you're using the tape. You're cutting off a piece of new tape. You want to use your clothes to make the tape less sticky. So I did that over and over again with the tape, making it less and less sticky over and over again. I did it maybe 10 to 15 times per strip, because if it's still sticky and you tape it down on the paper, you risk tearing your paper when you're trying to take it off. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, take all the tape off here. Some tape I was really smart about, and I folded the edge of the tape so it didn't quite stick down at the end, so it's easier to take off. Others I'm gonna have to scratch until it comes off. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pause the video and take all the tape off so you guys can see the final effect. Okay guys, so as you can see, this took a really long time to take all this tape off. And even though I was very careful, I still have some torn edges here where I got too excited and just kind of took it off a little faster than I should have, and the paper came with it, which is why it's really, really important to, again, tape it on your clothes first to make it a little less sticky. Now, yeah, there are a couple places where it was torn, but I am still pretty happy with the way it turned out. It looks really cool. Oh man, some of the places it really ripped, and actually you can see where it came off the regular paper too. But still, I am very happy with this design. I think it looks really cool. You guys can try this with tape that you have that isn't as sticky as this one. So that is an option. I think the stencils work a little better so you don't accidentally injure your paper or rip off parts where you don't intend to rip off. But when it comes to the stencils, I think they work a little better. You just have to be careful when you're coloring it in not to rip the stencil. The tape I could color easily. I didn't have to worry about accidentally ripping anything. But in the end, when you're taking it off, you have to be extra careful. So it's totally up to you which part you want to be careful at. If you want to be careful during the drawing process and take it off easily, that is an option. But if you do the tape, you can go crazy with the colors, doing it really fast, but you have to be very careful when taking it off. So it's kind of, you know, you pick your poison. Which one would you rather do? Crazy drawing, draw really crazy and quickly and take it off carefully, or you're carefully drawing. So this is my second black and white stencil. Now I'm going to go ahead and take it off. This is a big reveal. I don't know what it's gonna look like. I've just been carefully drawing. The places where I taped the edges, I drew over in Sharpie, so when I take it off, it's gonna be missing. So I have two choices. I can either leave it or I can go back in with my Sharpie and just fill in those lines. So I'm carefully going to, and I'm gonna actually show you guys how I'm taking these off. So I'm carefully lifting them up. My finger is close to the paper and I'm carefully lifting them off. So these pieces of tape, since they're so little, I didn't bother making them less sticky on my clothes. I just stuck them on there, so there might be some significant tearing. Oop. But see, okay, this might be a little hard to see, but I can tell where it's right now. It's not connected to the tape anymore. It's lifting up and it's ripping my paper. Yeah, you hear that? So this little chunk here is paper that was ripped off. When I start seeing that, I can place my finger down and separate it from the tape on the paper so it doesn't rip off completely. So I'm gonna keep my fingers close to the tape and to the paper as I'm ripping it up. And I'm just gonna pause the video because I have a bunch of little pieces of tape all the way around here. So I'm gonna pause, finish untaping it so you guys can get the big reveal. Okay guys, so this is my stencil. I folded it a whole bunch of times and then I just cut little designs out. So you guys can practice with the newspaper and just keep folding it. Pick a design you really like for your stencil, and I think I will reuse this stencil again. I carefully untaped it all so it didn't rip, and so this is perfectly reusable. This is the result. So really cool designs with just using black and white. I colored in a lot of my shapes, but some of them I just used line. And for my centerpieces, I kind of wanted to try to do something different and creative. So some of them I colored near the edge and then just stippled, which stippling, art word, is just going boop, 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 using dots to color it in. That's called stippling. So I stippled my center here where I just used a bunch of dots. I stippled a little bit in the center and I had lines coming out, and I also colored around the edge, and I did the same thing here, and here I have the stippling at the center of all of them, and I have just line differences. So here I had a lot of lines. I love this shape. I didn't intend it to come out this way, but they look like little beans. I think they're so cute. I'm very happy with this design. Another thing that the Diwali Alpana designs are for, it's a new beginning, new year. They're symbols of strength since they're passed down from generation to generation. They are also symbols of good luck. So, good luck to you guys. Our next project I'm really excited about. Here's our supply list. I'm just gonna let you guys know we are leaving Asia and going straight to South America. and it is going to be, we are going to be learning about, I'll just tell you, how to make a piñata. So I'm really excited about this project. It does require a lot of materials. I'm going to go over them with you right now. A lot of them are found in the house. The tricky part with this project is there isn't a whole lot of room for substitution. So if you guys get clever ideas, if you don't per se have flour at home, I think you can just use glue. If you have a white glue mixed, I would just maybe Google some substitutions for flour and water, or paste or something, because I think that's going to be the trickiest substitution. We are going to need newspaper squares. So instead of our regular reliable newspaper, I'm going to ask that you guys cut them into squares before the video starts. So, we are going to need a lot of the squares to cover our balloon. Depending on the size of your balloon, I would say that's going to directly show you guys how much newspaper you're going to need. If you have a big balloon, you're going to need a lot of newspaper squares. This would be something to do with your parent or guardian, a fun project that you could do even with your siblings or anyone who can help you. It would be really fun as a group project. Little fun newspaper squares. I would recommend doing more than one, just because it's really fun to do. You're going to need scissors. You can also tear the newspaper into squares. The scissors are mainly for this, so if you don't have scissors, you can still tear the newspaper into squares and get similar results. You're going to need a bowl and a spoon, some string, either an old shoelace would work, or yarn, or if you have any string at home, as long as it's strong enough to hold up a piñata filled with goodies. Coloring, I would suggest if you have art paper, it's this flimsy see-through paper that's used typically on piñatas. If you don't have that, we're going to try to use markers, and if you have paint, this is where I'd bring them in. I would bring in the acrylic paint, the kind of paint that looks like this, where they're all linked together. I think you can get them at Walmart. Yep, just acrylic paint. I wouldn't do watercolor paint, because if we're leaving it to dry, watercolor is just going to rehydrate everything that we've been waiting to dry. So I would just say colors anything really except for watercolor. And you're going to need an aluminum pie plate. So they look like this. They're more of a pan, an aluminum pan where we're going to place the balloon in just so that it doesn't move around. Now you can substitute this with a shoebox or a small cardboard box. You can even use the cardboard to make a makeshift holder for the balloon. I'm going to try to make one next video so you guys can see what I'm talking about, how to make it out of the cardboard, flour and water. That is it for today's video. Once again, take pictures, upload it to Apena at uplifteducation.org. I cannot wait to see what you guys are making. I hope you guys have a wonderful day.